Welcome to Blooming Dandelion, where we explore healing, growing, and evolving to live a balanced and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Andrea Rivera Cazul, and each week we'll dive into practical tips, inspiring stories, and expert advice to help you bloom. Let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to Blooming Dandelion podcast. It's episode 9. It is episode 9. And we are currently, I'm not sure when you're going to be listening to this, but when I am recording this, we are halfway through our 30-day self-love challenge on our social media posts. We are also in the middle of August. We are also in the middle of Fat Liberation Month through NAFA. There's a lot going on, and I know that it's also going to be moving back into campus week for so many. It's going to be the start of a new chapter for so many as well as you go into your college careers and college chapters. There's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot to be excited about. This is just something that is just really, I get really just like happy when I see new chapters and new moments that are challenges in everyone's lives, not young people, not older people, just everyone. Because anyone can go back to school, can extend their careers. It's so great. And I bring this all up because I have a friendly guest this weekend staying with me. His name is Nico, who is my best friend's dog. He always stays with me. I'm the dog sitter. I'm Titi Andy when that happens. But she's moving in her sister this weekend, and I can't believe how many years it's gone by, like the college phase. I was talking to friends, and it went by in a blink of an eye, and I can't believe that next year it'll be 10 years since I graduated college. It literally does not feel that way. It feels like it's been yesterday. It feels so near. It does. It feels so near. It feels like no time has passed, and you kind of question where time goes. You really do. And it puts it into perspective too. It puts it so much into perspective. And then you start thinking about like the whole thing of your parents being like, time goes by so fast. And you're like, shut up. I know what I'm doing. Your little sassy 13-year-old. And you're like, I know what I'm doing. I'm a grown up. You don't know. You have no idea. It's going by so fast. Like these beautiful moments of just seeing family grow, seeing new nieces, new nephews be born, expanding the family, the cycle of life and death, obviously also impacting our families. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we're barely starting. I just hit y'all with a lot in the first 3 minutes. Sorry. My goodness. But welcome back. If this is your first time listening to us, I get into some pretty deep conversations because I'm not afraid to. And I find it that we find better connection when we get into some deep conversation. I'm not a surface level girl. I'm a deep level girl. But my name is Andrea Rivera Cazul. I go by Andy. I am just really excited to have you here, be a part of the community. And if you're not sure if this community is here for you, I promise you we will welcome you with open arms. And we talk a little bit about everything and anything. Primarily a lot of the topics that come up have impacted my life, and I talk about my experience and how I dealt with it through the lens of my work. So I have worked as my goodness, why am I blinking on my resume? I have worked as a college counselor. I've worked as a guidance counselor at a high school. I've worked as a domestic violence advocate. I have worked as a DEI manager. I have worked into so many different roles in my lifetime. Alongside that, my identity is that I am a domestic violence survivor. And so I weave into a lot of my lived experience into what I teach, into what I want others to learn, into what I want others to take out of my lived experience, and hopefully also be able to share so vulnerably that folks feel like they have a space for them to share if they want to, or at least feel like they have a space where they feel empowered to take the next steps in their own life, whatever that entails, whatever that means for you. I hope that that resonates. If that means that you are leaving a nasty situation, if that means that it empowers you to take next steps in your professional career, if that means that you are just deciding how you identify. These are all great things that are happening in our day-to-day lives. And sometimes we struggle because we don't know what kind of community we have around us. And we need to navigate those waters. And so why not create a community that's safe, that we kind of know what we want, kind of don't know yet, but we're going to navigate it together. So, hey, that's a little bit of an intro. Just in case you haven't heard the rest of the episodes, there's amazing episodes right before these. They're all about like 30 to 45 minutes. They're great. We post every Sunday. And I say we, this is a one-woman show. I record, I edit, I post on social media, I create everything. I go crazy. But we and my several personalities, we create this product to share with the world and for you all. But we share it on Sunday because I truly think that a lot of us enjoy having those like reset Sundays, or feeling like we can get energized for the beginning of the week. So if that is something that you desire, then you definitely have that space to listen to this at the beginning of the day. We launch it at 8 a.m. on Sunday. We do not miss a day. We have not missed a day, and I'm not jinxing myself. But Sundays, early morning, if you want to cook I have a listener, a good friend, who does their meal plans during her day on Sundays. And she listens to my podcast. Amazing. So it's just something that you can like have in the background, can actively listen, actively participate in. It shouldn't take a lot of effort, but it should hopefully leave you feeling a little bit more empowered, feeling a little bit more secure, and feeling a little bit more educated. And hopefully it leaves us all educated a little bit more. I'm learning, right? I'm not saying that I know everything. I humbly will never say that. The day that I know everything will be the day I cease to exist. Because I really don't think that anyone can ever know everything. But anyways, we start this episode. I have been rambling for 8 minutes now. I'm just really excited, and I'm going to get into that in our Blooming Soil. We're not going to get into that right now. So we do a segment at the beginning of our episode, right before we get into kind of like our content and what we're going to talk about. But we get into a segment called Bloom and Soil, which essentially is kind of like a high and low of the week, or a high and low that has happened. A lot of people call it different things. So like a peak and a pit, or a rose and a thorn. So there's a lot of different ways that you can call it that. But we call it Bloom and Soil. So for me, wow, there was a lot this week. Yeah, this week was hard, you guys. I'm not even going to lie. As I'm recording this, I am running off of 2 hours of sleep in the last 2 days. I legit have pulled an all-nighter as of like yesterday. I did not go to sleep yesterday at all. So the fact that I'm awake is amazing. I did after work go to sleep for like 2 hours, but I definitely did not rest at all. And I think that that's definitely my soil. It definitely had me, it gave me a little bit of a wake-up call because it had to do with a little bit of a situation that came about through, I don't want to overshare because it's kind of ongoing. But it just came about from like some nasty rhetoric and comments about me, a random person that I do not take seriously. I don't take anyone's comments ever seriously unless like I actually know the person and there's substance there. But if it's a random person, it does not affect me. But it triggered a fight or flight mode in me because it set me down a rabbit hole of like things that I had gone through in the first year of survival and being out of my situation. And I definitely, I will definitely say that I have grown so much because I think that a situation like this would have thrown me through the deep end and would have had me like really bad in how I would have reacted and how I would have managed my day, my night, and everything. But I will say that I wasn't expecting it to stay so deeply in my body as it did. And when I say that is that we have responses towards certain situations and how we react to things. So I could be okay mentally and like talk about it and be able to discuss things and all that stuff. But subconsciously, something inside is doing something to protect you. And that's essentially what I felt yesterday that I couldn't put it into words, and I didn't know what was going on until literally I think 4 a.m. Because I kept on watching TV and like it was a vicious cycle of like, okay, I'm starting to fall asleep, I'm tired, my eyes hurt, my eyes are droopy, and like I really need sleep. And then all of a sudden I'd be like, I cannot, like it's literally like there's too much going on, it's loudness in my head. And I would wake up and turn on the TV and turn it on and then perseverate and go back to seeing if any messages came in. And not even messages, like a random email. Like, that's the thing. It's making sure that, like, did something else come in? Because it went back into the cycle of, like, how I had gone through the first year of abuse. How was this person responding? And, like, it just kept on going. Like, I could not let it go. And so at 4 a.m., I realized what I was doing, and I was like, yeah, I need therapy to really unpack what just happened. So I will say my bloom has a little bit of goodness in it, in the sense that like I've been able to, and I've been looking in the past like 4 years of me living here, I have been looking for a good therapist. I've been searching. I've talked to different therapists. The problem is what is covered in my insurance. Is that when I find a therapist that aligns with what I'm searching for, my insurance doesn't pay for it. And therapy is expensive. So I went through my portal and searched for a good therapist. I mean, at least I hope it's a good therapist. But I searched for one, and I'm praying and hoping that it's good. But I'm taking the steps. I'm taking the active steps. That was one of the things that I really wanted to do this year. And I mean, every year. I have written it in my goals every year that I have been wanting to find one. And every time that I found one or was recommended one, it always fell through. So I need it. My bloom this week. Oh my gosh. So many things have happened this week. Today as I'm recording this, we had an event at work and I spent it with my friend and her daughters, and it was amazing. I had so much fun. I also got to connect with a student who found me from another state, and we connected on a DEI level and professional level that just I hadn't been able to have in a long time. I mean, as besides my work folks and like the people that I work with, but just like someone like that, you just spark a conversation and they ask questions and are truly passionate about the work. I haven't felt that since I worked the conference sector from like housing. And so it was just like a really special, unique week without perseverating or really overthinking or just getting stuck on the fact that a very crappy thing happened this week. I'm not thinking about that. Like that was one blip of the week, and truly like there was so many beautiful highlights this week that I get to be excited about the way that I'm doing life and the way that I get to show up for myself, for people and all that stuff. But I will segue out of blooming and soil because this is a topic that will kind of resonate into this, but I've been scrolling and okay, I also am going to say this. I'm going to be taking off my makeup. This is going to be a let's take our mask off. Let's take off any type of insecurities. We're going to take, I'm not going to say I don't have insecurities. Let's be for real. We all have insecurities that we're working on. But I'm going to take my makeup off. I'm going to do that with y'all. I have had this makeup on for about 15 hours at this point. And we're going to do this while talking about cognitive dissonance, trauma bonds, and it ends with us. Now, I'm going to talk very lightly about It Ends With Us because number one, if you don't know about It Ends With Us, then how blessed and lucky are you? And secondly, where have you been living is another part. So here's a little bit of background on what it is. So when you Google, because I have not read the book and I have not watched the movie, but as a person who is 31 and has active social media presence and is very much enthralled in pop culture, but also in standing up for what's right and seeing what is going on in the world, yeah, we're going to talk about this because it really bothered me and it continues to really bother me. So this is a book written by Colleen Hoover. It apparently is a romance novel. And essentially it is about a 23-year-old college graduate following Lily Bloom, who is played by Blake Lively. And she moves to Boston with hopes of opening her own floral shop. And I'm reading this off of what is the plot and all that stuff. Or maybe I shouldn't read the plot, but what the book is about. So Lily Bloom moves to Boston to chase her lifelong dream of opening her own business. A chance meeting with charming neurosurgeon Ryle Kincaid soon sparks an intense connection, but as the two fall deeply in love, she begins to see sides of Ryle that remind her of her parents' relationship. When Lily's first love, Atlas Corrigan, suddenly re-enters her life, her relationship with Ryle gets upended, leaving her with an impossible choice. Okay. So, I'm going to say this. If you were to read the little bit of that part without me saying anything before, and I don't even think, I can't remember at this point, but I don't think I mentioned anything about DV, do you think that you would have understood that there was any form of domestic violence in there? Alright, thank you. I am astonished because I think that there needs to be more stories of DV. There needs to be more stories of real life situations of what happens with us and how we are impacted and how we show up as, yes, real people, but real people that have to navigate what I'm going to talk about with cognitive dissonance and, you know, showing up for ourselves, but like the trauma bond and like there's so much. But I bring this up because I slightly was excited because I was like, okay, I really want to watch this movie. This is something that, you know, I think I would like, and I know that I would have to be prepared no matter what, because you never know what would trigger me. Sometimes, for me, I don't necessarily get triggered by other people's situations, which is why I was able to really work in the DV agency and all that stuff. For me, my triggers are very personal, and like it has to really it has to almost be like exactly what has happened to me. And I can put myself in people's shoes and everything. And the level of empathy that I have, like, I can really, like, just step into people's shoes and just understand how hard these decisions are. They're not taken lightly. I have worked with families that are trying to repair their relationships with children and everything because their cognitive dissonance, who they think their partners are, is so deeply ingrained in them that Department of Children and Family have to get involved. That's how impactful, and that is how hard it is for us women to get out. Or not even, I won't say women, for survivors, for people who are victims, for people who fall into traps of abusers. It is hard for us to get out. And when the movie started launching and promotions started coming out, there is a lot of amazing promo from Justin Baldoni, and I think he's done amazing work in the sense of saying, you know, this isn't about me, this is about all the women that are going to get heard, this is their story. And when you hear Blake Lively and you hear her side and you hear the way that she speaks about floral dresses, bring your girlfriend, I would feel so wildly offended if I did not know what this movie was about, if I was just surprised by a random outing of my girlfriends and they never gave me a heads up and we just show up and the movie just is what it is. Because you don't know what people are going through. And there's a sense of responsibility of you telling people what they're getting themselves into. And I've seen people post about it, about how there's no warning, there's no post at the end or at the beginning saying like, hey, this has, you know, really graphic messages of DV or whatnot. And again, I have not watched the movie. I am taking all of this with a grain of salt. I'm just communicating what everyone has shown on social media and everything. And again, social media can be deceiving sometimes. But from the interviews, what I can see, the tact of, you know, one of the questions that was asked was, hey, if, you know, people resonate with this story, if people have their own stories, if, you know, people want to come and talk to you, how do they get to do that? And the comment back is, oh, should we share locations? And should we? That's just, it's just distasteful. And the fact that obviously we know that Wolverine and Deadpool came out at the same time, so there's been a little bit of a promo umbrella going around of them crossing over. But the fact that there was one interview, and this one really did not sit well with me. There was one interview that essentially they are interviewing the first love of Blake Lively, so the character that plays Atlas. I'm not sure who he is, but the character that plays Atlas, or the actor that plays Atlas, has been interviewed by an actual, you know, reporter. I couldn't find the word. By an actual reporter. And once they finish, and he's about to get up, Ryan, her husband, comes in, sits down, and essentially is playing the role of being kind of like a jealous husband. And like, he's trying to make it fun and lighthearted and stuff, but it doesn't land. And please, if you are listening right now, I want you to take 2 seconds and really think, and you don't have to know because I'm going to say it, but please tell me if this movie is about domestic violence, and we have had an episode already on the signs of abuse. If this is one of the promos and we are talking about domestic violence, the signs of abuse, and the promo, one of the promos, one of the little press junkets is her husband playing a little bit of like a funny, jealous guy, being like, haha, okay, yeah, so you have like funny scenes, whatever, like, and I don't even know the lingo because I was so mad that I watched it twice. Yes, I watched it twice because I wanted to confirm what was said, but like, it's tone deaf. It is tone deaf to not understand the level of gravity and to understand the severity that you feel like essentially you are discrediting so many people's stories by doing these little lighthearted things. When this press junket should have been a moment to be so serious, so impactful towards the survivor community. It should have been a time, I literally posted about it online, it should have been a time that you collaborated with every DV agency in the area. Every DV agency. You could have had literally DV agencies posted up in every single one of those movie theaters with free resources. With free resources. Made donations, made it impactful, made it worthwhile. And you didn't. It says a lot. It says a lot. I could give 2 fucking shits about your fucking rings, your dresses, or anything. The voices of the community of those who have survived is loud and it's disappointed. And those who have not survived, those who are no longer here at the hands of their abusers, that is something heavy that I know a lot of survivors carry, because we see it in the media, we see it in the news, we see it in every time there's an article coming out of gender violence, of interrelationship violence, of any type of violence. We see it. We see when our stories are not getting taken seriously. And you see why it's so hard for people to come out. But that is my 15 minutes on It Ends With Us. I really am so mad at a wasted opportunity, because we don't often, and I think it breaks my heart too, the level of amount of people that have had to take the time to reshare their stories. And I don't know if they were ready to. I don't know if that's something that they did, or if they were truly triggered by the experience. But I just know that the survivor community is hurting. And maybe some are finding it impactful, which is great. I know that the movie, it's serving its purpose in a sense. There are some people that are finding solace and finding purpose in the sense of sometimes they need to see it to be able to get out. Sometimes they need an okay to be able to say, I can leave. So needless to say, I think my qualms are with the actresses and the actors that just didn't uphold their end of the bargain in a sense. But this really, there is a correlation of like cognitive dissonance here, because a lot of times there is a sense of, and for those who don't know what cognitive dissonance is, it's essentially when you do something or behave a certain way that goes against your values, or you may have experience with this by seeing this as like a clash of beliefs and disruption of thought. And it can occur if you have two or more conflicting beliefs. So it just essentially means that you can be torn between two things. So I'm going to talk to you about the signs of cognitive dissonance, and then I'm going to talk to you about like cognitive dissonance and a little bit of trauma bond. So this is from the Cleveland Clinic. So the signs of cognitive dissonance. So some signs you may be experiencing cognitive dissonance include questioning the decisions you've made, experiencing discomfort because your values don't coincide with your environment, feeling guilty or shame based on your decisions or beliefs, difficulty rationalizing or justifying your actions or the actions of others. So there's an example here from a doctor. So essentially it says, one way people work through cognitive dissonance is to rationalize their behavior. So if you value eating healthy, then one day decide to eat one donut, you might rationalize why eating that donut is okay, even though it goes against your values of eating healthy. If you feel you have to justify those actions in order to be okay with them, or you're carrying around guilt because of what you did, these are signs that you have cognitive dissonance. Definitely have cognitive dissonance, and this is why it gets me angry, because I'm still to this day battling through this. So what causes cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance occurs for a number of reasons, but perhaps some of the most common causes include the following. So receiving new information. So new information can shed light or a lot of light on a subject that you might not have known about. It can also force you to confront things that you may have never thought to confront before. Social pressures. You may also feel the experience that cognitive dissonance when you have situations where friends, family members, or coworkers act a certain way that don't align with your beliefs. Being forced into a decision. When faced with conflict, you may experience cognitive dissonance if you make a decision to lessen potential conflict between you and other people, but it's not necessarily a decision you fully believe in. So some examples of cognitive dissonance, I'm going to go through them. So there's 3. And obviously there's going to be a lot more, but these are the 3 that the Cleveland Health Clinic gives. Your family is supportive of your decision to quit smoking, but one day you're super stressed, so you sneak a cigarette when your family isn't around because you don't want to disappoint them. You may experience cognitive dissonance if these actions make you feel guilty or if you feel like you let your family down. The second one, you may want to start eating healthier, but you've heard healthy food is really expensive. So you rely on fast food more often because it's affordable and more accessible. If you feel stuck or ashamed of this decision, or you feel conflicted about how you handle your meals, you're dealing with cognitive dissonance. The next one. You've made a New Year's resolution to exercise more, but a month into the new year, you've cut back from going to the gym because you've been really tired lately. We've all gone through that. There's a lot going on at work and you have chores to do at home. You don't really have time to do the workout, do you? If you feel torn between your responsibilities and your desire to improve physically and you're rationalizing your decision to stay at home, you are experiencing cognitive dissonance. So what does it feel like? Let me tell y'all. It feels like anxiety. It feels like stress. Yeah, it sucks. It really does suck. It feels like all of those things combined. And it feels different for everyone. I think that I see it here, and like for a lot of people it like can feel different. It can feel like you can feel it on your mental, emotional, or physical health. Like some people feel it in their bodies. Like I'm pretty sure that I feel it, the tension in my shoulders. And that's the reason why I get all the migraines. I think we finally put the piece to the puzzle that we didn't know. Did I just self-diagnose? Wow. Fantastic. I'm going to jump because there's a way to reduce cognitive dissonance, but I'm going to jump over to how domestic violence can affect the brain, but essentially I'm going to jump into the cognitive dissonance and the trauma bond. So essentially there's a way that our brains work, right? Our brains are complex, they're mysterious. There's a lot of things that they're still trying to figure out, and I think they're still trying to also figure out the effects of long-term abuse and how it affects our brains, how it affects our development, how it affects any type of anything, right? I mean, I've seen people that have gone through any form of like abuse and like have been diagnosed with ADHD afterwards, or again, I'm just seeing what has been posted online and just sharing their experiences. But I mean, there's so much, because there's so much rewiring that happens so that the brain keeps you safe. And I'm assuming that something happens at that point. Again, I'm not a doctor. But it's just a hypothetical, right? Like there has to be something as the brain rewires that happens to keep you safe, to make sure that you're always on guard and all that stuff. But anyways, so here's some typical reactions that your brain has towards abuse. So, wow, these are tough. So it has oxytocin. It bonds the victim to their abuser. Endogenous opioids, pain, pleasure, dependence, and withdrawal. This is a big word. Corticotropin, corticotropin releasing factor, stress and withdrawal. and dopamine, wanting, craving, seeking. I've experienced all of these. This is so tough. These are such strong neurochemistry, and its dysregulated states can create a mindset in which it becomes nearly impossible for the victim to manage their intense emotions and make logical decisions. It can take time for an individual to begin feeling safe in any environment once they are away from their abuser, especially if the perpetrator was extraordinarily controlling and violent. Yeah, this is a lot. So, cognitive dissonance and trauma bond are two psychological states, and they're vital for victims of physical and emotional abuse. And the states are completely ways to override the victim's valid reasoning, which is why when you have people say, I saw, right, let's use the example of It Ends With Us, because I saw an interview about it, and some people say, like, I saw the interview and I feel like I know myself and I would have gotten out. And people hear your story and they're like, I just don't understand why she stayed. How could she have stayed? She's so strong. She's so this. She's so that. It's because of this. It's because of this cognitive dissonance. It's because I'm literally going to read this out black and white right now so you can hear it. These states completely override the victim's valid reasoning that could help them gain freedom from their abuser. This process can happen automatically to the brain when an individual is placed into an abusive situation for a long duration. Cognitive dissonance reflects the distress and trauma of holding two opposing beliefs simultaneously, like we talked about earlier. Individuals often will sit fighting between two opposite reasonings. These can often take for as 1. An abuser is a nasty person who has wholly violated my trust. I have witnessed a pattern of cruelty and evil. They are toxic individuals I need to get rid of. 2. An abuser is a good man deep down. They were having a bad day and didn't intentionally go out of their way to hurt me. It just happened. Their aggression was not indeed at me. He was protecting himself from all the guilt he is carrying for what he did. Fuck. This is the shit that really that affects me still to this day, because I still have to wrap my head around this, because I still fuck. Because I still find myself like going back and being like, oh, he might be nice, and like he just wasn't supported when he was younger, and he might have just this and he might have just that. And that's exactly what I would say every time. And every time I protected. And every time I stayed. I promise it gets easier. I know that I'm crying. But truly, it's just, I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm loved. I know that my story helps someone else. I know that me sharing this will help someone. I'm gonna take a minute. I don't think anything has affected me like this in a while. Well, but truly, this is at its core the reason why we stay. This is the battle, the back and forth, the let me not tell my friends because they'll hate him. Let me not tell my mom because she might get worried. Let me not tell my dad because he might get worried. This is how it starts. This is how it starts. It starts by you falling in love with a person and wanting to protect them and wanting the best for them and just wanting to feel loved. And so you fall. And the trauma bond ensues, and it's a drug that you can't get rid of. And it's a cycle and a roller coaster that you can't get off of until you do. And I promise that you can. And I promise that you can get stronger. So, I know this one was a little bit tough. I had a little bit of rage in me. I have cried, but I'm going to keep on crying and shedding tears here with y'all. Because this is real. Because this is life. This is my life. This is also, I think about every single woman, child. I think so deeply about that one call that I got at the DV agency about that one woman who was taken from their family. All in a matter of hours. The difference of one day. And we'll talk about that at another episode. But one day, how one day of safety planning with one family took away didn't give them enough time for their daughter. So I don't want to end the episode like this, but I think this is a good enough time to end this episode. I do want to echo, like I said in the beginning, and maybe this is a good segue, because we do have to take care of ourselves and our mental health and our body. And look at that. I just opened my iPad, and this week for the 30-day self-love challenge, we are going to be working on our emotional self-being, our emotional well-being, as I'm crying. So week 3, we're going to be focusing on week 15, or day 15 to day 21. So day 15, we're going to identify and write down your emotions throughout the day. Day 16, we're going to practice gratitude by listing 3 things you're grateful for. Day 17, do something creative. So draw, paint, write. Day 18, spend time with someone who makes you feel good about yourself. Day 19, watch a movie or read a book that makes you laugh. Day 20, write a letter to your future self. Day 21, reflect on your emotional state and journal about any changes you've noticed. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me. Thank you for always finding time to listen to Blooming Dandelion, and for sharing. I love y'all so much, and I hope that we keep on blooming. Thanks for tuning in to Blooming Dandelion. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Follow us on social media on Instagram at Blooming Dandelion Podcast for more inspiration. And remember to keep on blooming. See you next time, dandelions.